and today we're covering a 2019 psychological thriller called Girl on the Third Floor. The starting scene shows us an old house where a man moves in with his dog. The dog climbs the stairs and starts roaming around the rooms while the guy places his luggage into the pink living room. One particular spot catches his eye, and as he observes the black sludgy liquid pouring out of it, the guy breaks it open while his dog stares blankly at a wardrobe in the upstairs bedroom. Suddenly, a white marble drops down from the closet space and rolls down the stairs into the living room where the dog swallows it. The guy looks at his pet in exasperation and proceeds to set up his mattress. As he's cleaning the house, he also has to clean the post-intercourse mess that almost throws him up. As he's scrubbing the floor, the deranged doorbell rings and a lady is outside to meet him. Upon sitting outside, the guy tells her that his wife is having a baby and they're here for a change of scenery. He then gets to know that the lady is the pastor from Protestant church. Later, the guy sleeps in the living room and is suddenly woken up by a video call from his wife. We can see her pregnant as she asks her lover how he's holding up in the new house. He states that he'll do fine and proceeds to repair the ruptured drywall. He sets up the drill machine and puts a hard board over the gaping hole. As he's working, the drill machine's battery dies and he throws it away angrily to charge it, but the socket starts oozing a whitish liquid. The guy cleans it and puts the drill on charge. Suddenly, the horrible doorbell rings again and there's an attorney outside. As the guy signs some papers, the attorney teases him by his past profession as there are no strippers here to woo the clients. The guy simply waves off his answers and states that his wife, Liz, is affording the place. After the attorney leaves, the guy hammers down another portion of the wall and discovers a girl's dress and a wig inside, dating 1909. That night, he leaves the house and goes to a bar where he meets an old man, named Geary, who offers him dinner. Upon getting to know that he's living in the house around the corner, the old man asks the guy, named Don, if he's gay. Don is exasperated, upon which Geary states that the specific house is bad news for straight men. Late at night, he returns home and searches for his dog, Cooper. He scours through the rooms and upstairs. We witness someone move behind him and suddenly, Cooper jump scares him. After settling in, he video calls with Liz and states that he hasn't gotten to the kitchen yet. Moreover, Don states that Milo's coming over the weekend. As the call ends, he opens a dating app and gets ready but suddenly gets interrupted by Cooper. Deeply annoyed, he moves the mattress into the bedroom and shuts Cooper out. The following morning, he checks out the kitchen pipe which suddenly bursts and he's splattered with black sludge. He tumbles outside to clean himself when suddenly, a pretty girl greets him in the backyard. After telling her that he bought the house, the guy walks in after sharing a smile with the maiden. He walks in to clean the pipe but oddly, finds a crystal marble stuck inside it. The scene now shifts to a park where Don goes for a jog with Cooper. Upon returning, he jumps into the shower but instead of water, a white, gooey liquid leaks from the hose and suddenly, a cascade of the same slimy liquid rains over him. Afterwards, he paints the drywall and drinks beer later on the patio. But he returns back unnoticed while a reflection of a girl flashes in the mirror. The same night, he paints the bedroom wall and through the window, notices the girl that he met yesterday, petting Cooper. He then brings her in and gives her a tour of the house. She observes a cabinet, and proceeds to the bedroom where she starts kissing him but Cooper barks at them abruptly. That makes Don angry and he closes the door on him. The dog keeps barking in sheer restlessness but Don doesn't stop and afterwards, bids the girl goodbye with a hug. Nevertheless, the dog is still angry and suddenly a huge blast is heard. Don runs up to the bedroom where he kissed the girl, and witnesses the ceiling completely destroyed with a watching stage set above. He walks to the third-floor attic and sees a proper railing and the stage by which you can directly look below at the bedroom. He calls Liz to tell her about it and then goes to clean the mess up. In the meantime, the doorbell rings and it's the same pretty girl outside again but the guy apologizes to her and excuses himself. Late at night, Cooper wakes up and goes out and in comes a girl. She crawls up to Don and it's revealed that she's Liz. They both indulge in romance but Liz keeps shifting to the other woman and at the end, Don witnesses a horrendous girl, with a slashed face, sitting on top of him. He instantly jolts up, drenched in sweat and finds a marble placed on his belly. Afterwards, he freshens up and walks downstairs where the doorbell rings and it's his friend Milo outside. Both of them work together afterwards to fix the ceiling and the bedroom. After they're done, they go to the bar where Geary acknowledges the fact that Don once ran all the stripper business in the big city and was called King Don. The following morning, Don wakes up to see Milo painting the walls. Upon asking for coffee, Milo states that his assistant is already doing that. Don is astounded and dashes to the kitchen to find the pretty girl working there. The girl says that her name is Sarah, but Don threatens her to leave at once and never come near the house again. Milo catches him pinning Sarah against the wall and demands an explanation. That causes an argument between them and Don walks out in anguish. Milo returns back to work, but suddenly a marble rolls up in the living room. Milo follows it as it trails down to the basement where he meets Sarah. Milo apologizes to her, but she lashes out with a hammer and bursts his eye socket. He starts to crawl away to save himself, but upon reaching the staircase, he witnesses the terrific, slashed-face girl waiting for him, while Sarah scoops up behind him evilly and brings down the hammer with all her might. Late at night, Don returns back, regretting his act, and looks around the house for Milo. Upon finding him nowhere, he texts him an apology and gets an affirmation back. That relieves him, and he then video calls Liz, but suddenly, Sarah walks behind him and Liz notices that. But as Don scours through the house, he finds nothing. Surprisingly, as he strolls upon the backyard door, he finds it swinging open. He ends the call immediately and rushes inside to locate the intruder, but finds nothing. The following morning, he installs new locks on every door as well as CCTV cameras on every corner. As he's setting up the alarm system, he gets a visit by the pastor. Outside, they talk about the house's bitchy personality, and the pastor ends the convo with a statement that, "Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial." That night, as everyone's asleep, another marble pops out from a fleshy opening in the socket, and that wakes up Cooper. He follows it downstairs to the basement. As the dog stares into the darkness, Sarah's face emerges with an evil grin and everything fades out. The next morning, Don wakes up and starts calling for Cooper. He searches in every nook and corner but cannot find his dog. Ultimately, he hears the dryer running in the pantry. Don's expressions go dark, and gradually he nears the machine to witness the nightmare of his life. He reluctantly opens the door and instantly throws up as Cooper's chopped-up body parts rotate in the dryer. The next scene shows us a policeman filing a report against Sarah. As Don asserts his complaint, the policeman doesn't take him seriously and regards him as King Don. Afterwards, he leaves the house while the pastor observes the whole situation from a distance. Later that night, Don sits in the living room in utter helplessness when Sarah appears in front of him. Don apologizes to her about everything, and to make it up for her, he states that he has brought a gift for her and it's in the kitchen. She advances towards the kitchen, and suddenly from behind, Don bashes her head with the hammer and knocks her down. As she bleeds on the floor, he gets a sheet and wraps her body. Afterwards, he drags it downstairs to the basement where he puts it up in a corner and cakes it with a powder. In the meantime, he receives a call from Liz, who states that Milo texted her about something she should know about Don. That statement freaks him out and he angrily cuts the call. Now the thought of Sarah's body pops up again, and he darts to the basement to find it empty. Horror runs through his bones as he scavenges all around the house to locate her dead body, but it's nowhere to be found. So, he walks to the third-floor attic and finds a hollow space in a wall. He uses the hammer to break it down and finds a small room inside. Its walls are scribbled with childish illustrations depicting a masked man and a girl. Moreover, the torch flashes on a discarded doll placed in a corner. The scene now shifts to the house where Don rips apart the wallpaper furiously. He finds another hollow space, drills it up and inserts a camera in the hole. As he runs the wire inside, the camera passes through crumpled newspapers and cobwebs until it suddenly shows a bloodied head of an alive girl inside. Don is appalled and in fury. He starts breaking the walls downstairs to find gory, pulsating flesh inside. Utterly horrified, he breaks another portion and finds the same kind of pulsating flesh underneath. In the meantime, different fluids and blood start spurting up from different areas of the house. Back at the wall, Don jumps back in fright as he witnesses Milo's dead face staring at him. Scared to death, he runs back to call the police when suddenly all the cabinets around the house start banging, and Don turns around to witness the slashed-up girl crawling out from a cabinet drawer. Don is stunned by horror as the girl looks at him, and suddenly a marble rolls down and crawls up his skin. He grimaces in pain and runs to the bedroom to cut his skin, but the marble keeps sliding up his body until it reaches his neck. The hideous girl appears at the door and starts cackling at his worsening situation. Don slits his neck to get the marble out, but it doesn't help, and he crawls to the closet begging to the girl to stop, but she laughs menacingly and various other marbles roll up on him and the screen blacks out. The scene now shifts to Liz, who enters the house to surprise her husband but doesn't find him anywhere in the house. She observes every corner of the house and comes across the ruptured drywall. Inside, she finds a newspaper from 1909 which stated that this house was a brothel, and the police couldn't find the girl's body. The scene now shifts to the kitchen where Liz senses something in the basement. She goes down the dark cellar and finds a marble placed in the center. Not understanding anything, she walks back upstairs and suddenly gets startled by Sarah's intrusion. Upon inquiry, Sarah informs her that she helped Don with the renovation. In the meantime, the doorbell rings and Liz meets with the pastor, named Ellie. Ellie tells her that this house has a bad reputation for married couples and straight men. Suspicion rises in Liz, but she affirms herself and proceeds to wash her hands, but at the sink, she finds a long strand of female hair. As she puts away the blockage, Liz is instantly freaked out as she notices an eye looking at her. Later, she tries to call Don but finds his phone in the bedroom while Sarah stands behind her wickedly. Worried sick, Liz goes to Ellie's place and states that her husband is a fuck-up and always messes up things. Ellie advises that her family should get away from the house as soon as possible, but Liz assures that they'll manage the choice of it. Afterwards, she returns home at night and finds a lot of hustle-bustle, with men dressed in suits roaming around the house. She walks to the kitchen where Sarah states that a party is going on and it's already started upstairs. Liz runs upstairs and bangs the bedroom door, calling for Don, but there's no answer. Ultimately, she walks up to the third-floor attic where all the spectators stand at the edge, looking below. As the show begins, everyone witnesses Sarah taking off her clothes and showing off. Meanwhile, a masked man appears and starts whipping her with a stick. Liz cries out in fury, but suddenly her attention is diverted to a side space where a young girl is drawing illustrations on the wall. The masked man then walks up to her and hands her a sack of marbles and pats her head. Liz is scared and runs downstairs where Sarah stops her in her tracks and states that she was killed but not a single man came looking for her. With that, she lunges towards Liz with a cutter and she seeks refuge in the bedroom. Suddenly, Don crawls out of the wardrobe completely slashed up and apologizes to Liz for being a fuck-up, but she shrieks and tries to run away. In a menacing way, Don cuts open his face and underneath the skin, Sarah appears. She laughs sinisterly and states that she's proud of Liz. Scared to death, she runs downstairs to find Milo's face laughing at her. Sweat drops from her face as she witnesses another horror. The slashed girl crawls out from the fabricated drywall, but in a heroic way, Liz bashes her head with a hammer and it ends up in a messy pulp of grotesque filth. Sarah appears suddenly and advances towards the girl while Liz manages to escape from behind. Outside, she meets Ellie, who states that she did well. Liz is exasperated, but Ellie states that it was her own choice. Later, Liz walks to the wardrobe and breaks it down to find a corpse behind the drywall. The scene then shows us Ellie and Liz burying the girl in the cemetery. The final moments of the movie take us forward into 6 months where we see Liz with her newborn baby. They live happily, and as Liz leaves the room, we suddenly witness marbles dropping in the baby's crib from a ceiling vent, and the movie comes to a ferocious end as Don's face appears in the vent stating, "That's my girl." Thanks for watching, guys.